Healing through silence, how Buddhist wisdom transforms your life. In a noisy world, where phone notifications, work pressure, and the rush of modern life constantly surround us, people are gradually losing the ability to listen to themselves. We often fear silence, fear solitude, and try to fill every single moment with sound or activity. Yet, thousands of years ago, the Buddha and countless practitioners already pointed out that it is precisely in silence and solitude that we find the path home, the source of healing and awakening. This journey is not reserved only for monks or those who renounce the world. Anyone, even in the midst of a busy daily life, can practice it. Through 6 aspects: noble silence, solitude, shikantaza, just sitting, samatha and vipassana, common insight, tonglen, transforming suffering into compassion, and their application in everyday living, we can open a new door to live more peacefully, wholeheartedly, and compassionately. In today's world, where the noise of technology, endless information, and society's relentless demands surround us, silence seems like a luxury. People are constantly finding ways to fill the void with music, social media, conversations, or non-stop activities. That is why, when faced with silence, we often feel awkward, restless, or even afraid. But in Buddhist teachings, silence is not meaningless emptiness. It is a state full of life, rich in energy, where the mind has a chance to let go of chaos and return to its natural capacity for healing. The sages often compare the human mind to a murky jar of water. When constantly stirred by noise, worries, and all kinds of external stimulation, the water remains forever muddy, unable to reveal its bottom. But if we set it down and let it rest, the mud gradually settles, and the surface becomes clear. The mind works in the same way. When we allow ourselves to stop, when we step into the space of noble silence, the layers of thoughts, worries, and restlessness slowly settle. Out of that stillness, a new light appears, clarity, peace, and a simple yet profound happiness. In the Buddhist tradition, noble silence is not just the absence of talking or sound. It is the silence of both body and mind, the release of the need to fill every gap with words or thoughts. In retreats, monks and practitioners spend many days, even weeks, living in this silence. They are not running away from life, but returning to themselves, to listen to what is truly happening inside. There, they are no longer defined by social roles, no longer pressured to perform, but simply being themselves in each breath. What is remarkable is that silence is not an active doing, but a space that allows what needs to unfold naturally. Many people, when first trying to sit in silence, feel restless, wanting to reach for their phone, wanting to find something to do. The mind keeps asking, what should I be doing now? Is sitting here even useful? But the healing in silence doesn't come from action, it comes from allowing. When we allow everything to simply be, thoughts arising and passing, emotions appearing and dissolving, then release and renewal naturally take place. The Buddha himself retreated into forests, away from the clamor of society, to meditate and find enlightenment. He understood that only in absolute stillness, where no external voices intrude, does true wisdom shine forth. From this, he taught his disciples the value of noble silence, not to escape, but to return to truth. Today, though we are not monks, each of us can nurture the habit of sitting in silence for a few minutes each day. Just 5 minutes in the morning, turning off the phone, closing the eyes, letting the breath flow in and out, can be enough to feel a profound shift. With perseverance, silence gradually becomes a teacher. In it, we see the layers of ego's noise, the insecurities, the desires, and even the most hidden fears. But once we no longer avoid them, we realize they are only like clouds drifting across the sky. What remains is the boundless blue sky itself, that unshaken stillness already within us. Noble silence is not separation from life, it is the bridge that leads us back to ourselves. In that space, we realize we are already whole. We do not need to chase other people's definitions, nor seek validation from outside. Silence reminds us that happiness is not something to achieve, but something we can recognize here and now. Thus, silence becomes a deep form of therapy. It not only soothes the mind but also opens a door for us to touch our inner wisdom, a wisdom beyond words, felt only by the heart. And it is in that place where we begin the journey home to our original peace. But silence does not exist alone. It is like fertile soil that requires time for seeds to grow. And the seed is solitude, a state many people fear, but which is in fact the root of strength. When hearing the word alone, many immediately think of loneliness, emptiness, as if missing a part of themselves. But in Buddhist philosophy and in deep lived experience, solitude is not the sadness of loneliness, but a powerful state, a voluntary entering into quiet to renew energy and reconnect with the true self. Solitude does not weaken us, on the contrary, it is the fertile ground where wisdom and inner strength blossom. We must clearly distinguish loneliness from solitude. Loneliness is the sense of lack, a void that craves someone to fill it, an echo of the soul searching for recognition or connection. It often carries heaviness. Solitude, by contrast, is a deliberate choice. We enter it not because we are abandoned, but because we want to return to ourselves. In solitude, we no longer play roles, no longer get swept up in the world's noise, but instead restfully look into the deepest layers of our being. The Buddha too, in his search for the path, spent long stretches of time alone in forests, beneath trees, in mountains. Not because he hated people or wanted to escape life, but because he understood that awakening only blooms in stillness. In solitude, we face directly what we often avoid: vague fears, lingering regrets, suppressed dreams. At first, this may feel uncomfortable, like climbing a steep hill. But with patience, we reach a higher ground where the landscape opens up, and so does the mind, clear, vast, and free. The strength of solitude lies here: no one is watching, no one is judging. We can be fully honest with ourselves. We see that things we thought important were illusions, and what we had forgotten was actually the root of peace. This honesty is not always comfortable, but it is the doorway to healing. Only by daring to face ourselves can we truly know who we are. Another profound gift of solitude is liberation from the need for external validation. In the modern world, it is easy to be caught in the spiral of likes, compliments, and approving glances. But once we learn to enjoy solitude, we realize we are already enough, with no one else required to prove our worth. From this fullness, when we return to life and to people, we carry a tranquil heart, no longer clinging or depending. We can love and give without demanding anything in return. Solitude also transforms relationships. When we enjoy our own company, we no longer approach others from a place of lack. Instead, we come from wholeness. And this wholeness makes love purer, less influenced by need, desire, or fear of loss. So how can we practice solitude in busy lives? We need not retreat to deep forests. Small steps are enough: a walk without headphones, an afternoon sitting by the window watching clouds, a weekend day without appointments or a packed schedule. At first, the emptiness may feel unsettling. But with patience, that emptiness turns into sacred space where we rediscover our true self. In a world increasingly noisy and rushed, choosing solitude is an act of courage. It is like pausing the chaotic stream of society to hear the true beat of our heart. And in that quiet, we discover something precious: we are enough, we are whole, we lack nothing. Solitude does not pull us away from life, rather, it returns us to life with greater strength, love, and clarity. When we have dared to enter silence and rest in solitude, the next question arises: what do we do with ourselves in that vast space? The answer lies in a simple yet profound practice: shikanaza, just sitting. Among the Zen practices of Japan, there is a method both simple and profound, shikanaza, which means just sitting. Unlike other forms of meditation that focus on breathing, visualization, or mantra, shikanaza requires nothing but sitting. No goals, no striving, no effort to control the mind. Simply sit, allow everything to be as it is, and rest in pure presence. At first glance, this may sound passive, even meaningless. How can just sitting transform anything? But hidden in its simplicity is a deep paradox: the harder we try to force the mind, the more restless it becomes. The more we chase enlightenment, the further it slips away. Only when we let go of all effort, dropping the idea of becoming something or achieving something, does the mind naturally return to its original clarity. In shikanaza, we don't try to stop thoughts. We let them come and go, like clouds drifting across the sky. We don't cling to pleasant feelings or resist unpleasant ones. We simply sit, like a mountain sitting firm amidst wind and rain, like the ocean calmly holding both waves and stillness. Over time, the practitioner discovers an unshakable center, a stillness that no thought, no emotion can disturb. This practice also heals the obsession with achievement so common in modern life. From a young age, we are trained to set goals, to constantly measure success, to strive for results. Even when we meditate, many secretly think, am I doing this right? When will I feel peaceful? When will I awaken? Shikanaza strips all of that away. There is no result to chase, because the true self is already here. Sitting is awakening. Sitting is enough. As the Zen master Dogen said, to study the way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be awakened by all things. In shikanaza, forgetting the self happens naturally. Without forcing, Without searching, we merge with the present moment as it is. Practiced regularly, Shikantaza seeps into daily life. Washing dishes, we just wash dishes. Drinking tea, we just drink tea. Listening to someone, we just listen, without the mind wandering elsewhere. In this way, life itself becomes meditation. Every action, no matter how small, is sacred when done with full presence. Samatha and Vipassana, calm and insight. If Shikantaza emphasizes just being, then in classical Buddhism two powerful methods balance each other, Samatha, calm abiding, and Vipassana, insight. They are like two wings of a bird, one brings stability, the other brings clarity. Without both, the path cannot fly. Samatha is the practice of calming the mind. Usually, it is cultivated through focusing on the breath, a mantra, or a specific object. The goal is not to suppress thoughts but to gradually train the mind to rest in one place, like a flame shielded from wind. With consistent practice, restlessness lessens, emotions soften, and concentration deepens. Samatha is like laying a solid foundation, a still pond where reflection becomes possible. Vipassana, on the other hand, is insight meditation. Once the mind is calm, we turn to observe reality as it is. We notice sensations arising and passing, thoughts forming and dissolving, feelings coming and going. We see impermanence, anicca, suffering, dukkha, and non-self, anatta. Gradually, the illusion of permanence shatters, the clinging to I loosens, and wisdom arises. Together, Samatha and Vipassana create a complete path. Without Samatha, Vipassana can feel unstable, because the mind is too restless to see clearly. Without Vipassana, Samatha may lead to calm but not true liberation, like a still pond that hides the mud beneath. Only when calm and insight merge does true transformation occur, the ability to face life's storms with equanimity, and to see through illusions with clarity. In daily life, Samatha can be applied in moments of stress. Just return to the breath, anchor the mind, let emotions settle. Vipassana can be applied when we notice patterns. Why do we keep getting angry in this situation? Why do certain fears repeat? Observing without judgment, we begin to see the roots of suffering. And in that seeing, freedom begins. Tonglen, transforming suffering into compassion. If the previous practices mainly focus on individual transformation, Tonglen, a Tibetan Buddhist meditation, opens the heart to others. The word means giving and receiving. In practice, we breathe in the suffering of others, and breathe out compassion and healing. At first, this seems counterintuitive. Why would anyone breathe in suffering? Aren't we supposed to avoid it? But Tonglen reverses our usual self-protective habit. Instead of shrinking away from pain, we embrace it with courage and compassion. By doing so, we dissolve the ego's walls and awaken the boundless heart. Imagine a friend in despair. In Tonglen, you inhale, taking in their pain, visualizing it as dark smoke entering your heart. Then, as you exhale, you send out light, warmth, love, wishing them peace. Over time, you realize something profound. In taking on suffering, you are not crushed by it. On the contrary, the heart expands, becoming vast enough to hold both pain and healing. This practice transforms the way we relate to the world. Normally, we avoid others' suffering, fearing it will overwhelm us. But with Tonglen, every encounter with pain becomes an opportunity to deepen compassion. We see that suffering is universal, that no one is separate. And from this, love becomes more unconditional. Tonglen also applies inwardly. When we feel our own heaviness, fear, anger, exhaustion, we can breathe it in, acknowledging it fully, and breathe out kindness for ourselves. Instead of fighting inner pain, we transform it into compassion. This gentle alchemy is deeply healing. Daily life application, making every moment a meditation. All of these practices, silence, solitude, Shikantaza, Samatha, and Vipassana, Tonglen, may sound lofty, but their true value lies in daily application. If they stay only in monasteries or retreat centers, they remain incomplete. Real practice is tested in the marketplace, the office, the family, the noisy street. How do we live them daily? Small pauses. Before answering a message, take one conscious breath. Before a meeting, sit for 10 seconds in silence. These little pauses anchor us in presence. Everyday rituals. Eating, walking, showering, turn them into mindful moments. Feel each bite, each step, each drop of water. Suddenly, the ordinary becomes sacred. Handling emotions. When anger rises, use samatha, breathe, calm down. Then Vipassana, observe, what triggered this? What's the root? Already, we are freer than if we had reacted blindly. Practicing Tonglen. When seeing someone suffering, silently breathe in their pain. Breathe out kindness. Even if they never know, our heart softens, and the world becomes gentler. Balancing technology. Set boundaries, perhaps no phone during meals, or 1 hour before bed. Protect silence like a rare treasure. Most importantly, we must remember, the goal is not to escape life, but to live it more deeply. Meditation is not a refuge to hide, but a training to face reality with clarity and compassion. In silence, we listen to ourselves. In solitude, we discover strength. In just sitting, we return to being. In calm and insight, we see reality clearly. In Tonglen, we open the heart to all beings. And in daily life, all of this becomes real. In the end, the path of practice is nothing mystical. It is simply a journey home, to the self we have always been. A self that is peaceful, compassionate, vast, and free. The practices are like stepping stones: silence, solitude, sitting, calm, insight, compassion, application. They guide us across the river of restlessness and suffering, back to the shore of wholeness. And from that shore, life changes. Work is still work, relationships still have challenges, the world still has pain. But our way of being has shifted. We are no longer tossed around by every wave. We walk with steadiness, love, and clarity. And in doing so, we not only heal ourselves, but become a source of healing for the world.
Thank you for watching until the end of the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to watch more interesting videos.